Some things become cliché in stories, used over and over again. On the one hand, this isn't such a horrible thing, because certain things manage to become tropes for a reason. On the other hand, some traditions are best broken. After Encanto was released, many fans came together to discuss some of the main tropes that they were happy to see missing in the film.
If our fate's up to me says, have another vision.
Today, we want to go over some of the tropes that the movie subverted, and whether or not we think Disney pulled it off successfully. I'm Kyle with Wicked Binge, and this is Disney tropes that Encanto avoided, that we love and hate. First off, let's talk about the trope of a great villain or force of evil. Unlike many animated features, Encanto lacked the iconic evildoer that lurked in the shadows, planning the downfall of the protagonist. Instead, this movie decided to poke fun at the idea of someone being purely evil with how Bruno was painted. In the song, We Don't Talk About Bruno, the audience is led to believe that he would be the villain Mirabel needed to face or bring over to the good side. However, Bruno was just misunderstood due to being associated with bad news.
Every time.
Throughout the movie, we have clear antagonists in both Abuela Alma and the brief appearance of the men that killed her husband. But there were no plotting henchmen or cackling monologues, and audiences responded well to it. While we're suckers for characters such as Dr. Facilier or Ursula, it was a welcome change to see someone up against the protagonist who didn't actually seek out their demise. Abuela Alma, though she caused a lot of pain for her family, had been only trying to seek out what she thought would help them. She hadn't realized that she was harming them until Mirabel spoke up. So we're gonna say that we really liked that Encanto avoided this trope. The next trope on our list is the unlikely team. There are many times in movies and shows where having a duo that slowly learns how to work together is charming. Joe in 22 in Soul, Z and Princess Bala in Ants, or Pearl and Amethyst from Steven Universe are just a few examples of the many times this trope has been used. Because there have been a lot of successful movies made using this setup, viewers had expected something similar in Encanto. After all, the cast of this movie was large enough that it was bound to come up someplace, right? To our surprise, however, Encanto doesn't use that dynamic. It isn't as though they didn't have an opportunity to utilize this dynamic either. We see Dolores with her gift of hearing countering Mirabel's need to keep things secret. We have Luisa's brute strength working alongside Isabella's need to have everything graceful and beautiful. We have Felix and his more comedic approach, complementing Pepa's stern and anxious demeanor. Encanto proved it was able to rise above these simple dynamics, but we have to say we kinda disliked it due to the potential this trope would have had in getting some side characters more screen time. Next, we have the defining hero moment trope. One of the tropes that we can't help but be fond of is the iconic scene that displays the protagonist as a noble hero. Usually this is given some memorable dialogue as the hero stands up against evil, such as with Mulan facing Shan Yu, or Flick tearing into Hopper. Mirabel didn't receive such a moment. She did stand up for what she was doing and had risked her safety to help the rest of her family, but Mirabel wasn't truly given a single moment that really defined her as a hero. One could argue that the scene where she rushed to save the candle could count, but we have our doubts. After all, it was Casita that wound up saving her. So really, it should count more as Casita's defining hero moment, if anything. So we have to admit, we disliked that Encanto didn't give Mirabel a moment of her own, considering how close she came in the final scenes. The next trope is the climactic conflict. Redditor Privy45, along with other Disney fans, expressed their shock when they expected a large fight as an end scene and none came. And they weren't alone in being taken aback by this choice. After all, we did see Mirabel and Abuela arguing after Alma told Mirabel everything going wrong was her fault.
Isabella's out of control because of you!
We see the cracks that began to form all over the Encanto when Mirabel lashed out at Abuela, accusing Alma of not really caring about their family. So it makes sense to expect that once Alma found Mirabel at the river, they would fight again. This is a tactic used in other movies, such as Coco, where we see the protagonist making a stand and confronting the antagonist as the music swells, stirring the audience. With Encanto, though, We see them achieve closure through meeting one another halfway, rather than fighting. Mirabel and Abuela were able to understand one another better and reconcile. And we're counting this as a plus for the movie. We really liked that Encanto solved its conflict in a completely different way. On a similar note, let's talk about the typical happy ending trope. Since Mirabel spent the movie coming to terms with how she's treated by the family, by Abuela Alma specifically, it would have been in Disney's brand to spend the final moments of the film finally giving Mirabel a gift of her own. There are some theories fans have speculated on considering the final scene, but there's still no denying that nothing was really confirmed. Mirabel wasn't suddenly flowing with power or displaying any kind of special ability. Mirabel's happy ending came not from gaining magic, but from bringing her family closer together and healing the wounds that had been hidden beneath the surface. It was one of the main reasons this movie captured the hearts of so many fans. Mirabel was happy with herself. It may not have been everyone's idea of a happy ending, but it was hers and therefore it was enough. However, we do have to say that we disliked that Disney avoided this trope in this case, for the fact that the ending was open enough to raise some questions and welcome too many theories. Not to mention Abuela Alma and Mirabel's reconciliation didn't really get the screen time it deserved to really call this a perfect ending. The next trope we have is the dramatic or tragic reasons for conflict. Frozen was very well known for utilizing this trope. Elsa nearly froze her sister to death, Anna's memories were wiped, and the two had a rift between them for years after. In Encanto, Mirabel had clearly been jealous of her sister Isabella. She called Isabella perfect and the golden child, even stating that Isabella never had a bad hair day, and Isabella hadn't been much better, flat out smacking Mirabel in the face with her hair and saying she was in the way. When Mirabel was told by Bruno she would need to hug Isabella to save the miracle, viewers anticipated that there would be some deep reason revealed as to why the two sisters didn't get along.
Apologize for ruining my life.
However, there wasn't a deep, heartbreaking reason that these two didn't see eye to eye. It was a normal case of siblings not communicating and misunderstanding one another, which was a message a lot of fans found relatable. And ultimately, because of its relatability, we're gonna say we liked that Disney avoided this trope. Next up, we have growth through character death. There is a trend going around on TikTok where fans of the movie are discussing what would have happened had Disney done what it normally does and killed off a main character, with the discussion revolving around Mirabel dying when Casita collapses. This is something that would certainly be on brand for Disney's movies, be it a parent, such as with The Lion King and Bambi, or a romantic partner, such as with Hercules and The Hunchback of Notre Dame. Disney loves to force character growth using death as the main motivator. This was something that was lacking in this film, even after knowing Abuela Alma's backstory. Yes, losing Pedro did result in Alma being cautious, and going on to force her family to be at their best for the community, but it was disconnected from the story enough that it certainly wasn't the same level that Disney has used this trope in the past. And this may actually come as a surprise, but we're gonna say that we disliked that Disney avoided this trope in the film. Because by the end, it really felt more like Alma truly reflecting and growing after Pedro's death openly would have spared a lot of confusion and heartbreak for Mirabel. Following, we have the trope of the overpowered protagonist. In a family where everyone is given a gift granting them a unique power, it would have been easy to have the protagonist be overpowered. Mirabel could have had a power that was too strong for her family to handle. She could have had something that was subtle and manipulative, making her terrifying. Instead, Disney totally subverted that expectation, and while there are plenty of speculations on Mirabel's fate, it was a nice change of pace to see a main character tackling their problems without any sort of advantage that would have made the journey too easy. Mirabel had plenty of obstacles to face, and the stakes were raised because without any special power, she could have easily failed at any point. Instead, Mirabel took a role that was similar to that of Sokka in Avatar: The Last Airbender. She was well aware she was lacking the strength the rest of the family had, but that didn't mean she was destined to fail.
Sometimes family weirdos just get a bad rap.
Mirabel had refused to have a lack of a miracle define her or keep her from helping her family. We really loved seeing this trope thrown out the window. The next trope that was subverted is going on a quest. When it comes to lengthy series, a good quest can make the story. The Hobbit and Lord of the Rings are prime examples of a noble quest done correctly. However, when it comes to animated films, It can mess with the pacing to the point that the audience grows bored. Reddit user Crownighter provided some insight on how overdone the idea of going on an adventure to save the world is, saying they were growing tired of seeing characters wandering through forests and wastelands for the majority of a film. When it comes to Encanto, Casita was large enough to have a fair amount to explore, while still not taking the protagonist far from home.
You wish you could have seen more, so see more.
Mirabelle was able to have her own solo experiences, while still being close enough to her family to get insight when needed. We really liked that Disney put together an adventure that stayed within the Encanto. Finally, the last subverted trope that we'll be discussing today is the love story. If there's one thing that has been beaten to death over the years, it's the romantic plotline that is usually shoved into a movie, regardless of whether it really suits the story or not. There have been some clips and audio leaked, revealing that there had originally been more of a focus on Isabella and her love life.
He wants 5 babies.
Wonderful.
Though Disney decided to scrap this side plot and focus more on the relationships within the Madrigal family. But that doesn't mean that romance is totally lacking in this feature. We see the chemistry between Felix and Pepa, Augustine and Julieta, and even Dolores and Mariano. However, these romantic ties didn't draw away from the main story. More importantly, Mirabelle wasn't pulled away from her motivation to find Bruno and get answers about the vision by having someone show up and display romantic interest in her. There's little more frustrating than seeing a protagonist meant to do something really important, with the stakes raised super high, only to be immediately distracted by a love confession or some awkward flirting. Maybe that'll happen in an Encanto sequel, but we are happy that Disney opted out of this kind of tired cliche. So we're gonna say that we definitely loved that this trope was subverted. But let us know in the comment section if you agree with our opinions on these tropes, and tell us what we should cover next. Remember to hit that notification bell and binge more of our Encanto videos. But most importantly, stay wicked.